Hi, this is John Brasier, and we're back for another episode of the Triad Golf Podcast. With me today is Jay Allred, back after a few weeks of being very busy. And today, what I'm looking forward to is talking about the rankings list of Triad golf courses that was in the last print edition of Triad Golf. Came out a couple weeks ago. It sparked a little bit of interest. I've gotten a lot of feedback, and this is what we're talking about. You should see this. Can you see that, Producer Adam Whitten? Can people see that? All right.
Got it.
Well, anyway, we did that, and it's got rankings of both public and an overall list of courses, public and private put together. It looks something like this. This is our overall leaderboard, and this is our public leaderboard. And like I said, that's in the May edition of Triad Golf, which is available at all Triad golf courses and a couple other places, some hotels, restaurants. And anyway, I'm excited about it because people love lists. In fact, I didn't know this, but this past week, or I guess maybe 10 days ago, Golf Digest started putting out their lists for the best courses in the state and the best courses overall. And so I guess it was good timing. I beat him by a couple weeks. It was totally unintentional. But I guess once in a while you get lucky. I don't know. But real quick, before I get to Jay, I just wanted to say why we did it. Because, I hadn't seen any lists like this before. People, like I said, people love lists. You rank high school teams, you rank restaurants, all those things in a particular market. And I hadn't seen one for Triad Golf. So I decided to do that. We have a tremendous amount of great golf courses, depth, and I thought it would be interesting to see how people ranked them. You've got these old classic courses like the Old Town Club, and then you've got these new modern courses on lakes or in the mountains, edge of the mountains, I guess I should say, like the Old North State Club. And I wanted to see how people would compare them. What we did was I got 18 panelists, basically longtime golf pros in the area. Some really top players, and even a top golf, and a top executive of a golf association here in the Carolinas to vote. And we tabulated the votes, and we came out with the lists. One real quick thing I wanted to say before we talk about it, the print issue. I myself made a grievous mistake, and in one of them listed Old Town and Old North State in the wrong order. I guess I saw the word old. And just read right over it. But Old Town was number one in our overall list. Old North State was number two. 3 was Sedgefield, and 4 was Greensboro Country Club's farm course. And those 4 courses kind of separated themselves. And well, anyway, that's just an introduction. And Jay, thanks for being here. I've needed a guest for a long time. Needed you here.
Well, thanks. I tell you, I've been, I've been swamped. I've been giving golf lessons. I'm taking over the U.S. Kids Golf Tour. I'm working at Forest Oaks some, and it's just I get like one day off in 2 weeks. It's been crazy, and I had the boys golf team going there for a while and regionals and states. But hey, I'm glad to be here. Enjoy doing this, and congratulations on your rankings. And
well, let's talk about the list that we got. That you looked at it. Any surprises for you? I mean, Old Town being number one. Recently this week, Golf Digest came out with Old Town as their number 39 overall course in America. So I guess it's no surprise that Old Town would be the number one vote getter here. But then we've got Old North State, which is barely in the Triad. We take 11 or 12 counties. It's in the edge of Montgomery County. So a lot of people might not even think of it as being a Triad course. Then we got Sedgefield, the host of the PGA Tour's annual Wyndham Championship. And we've got the Greensboro Farm Course, which is, beautiful golf course right next to my house here. So, but we've got a lot of depth. I mean, how do you pick, Jay? How would you pick between Old Town and a brand new super course built somewhere?
Old Town is just so classic. And Old North State Club, I've always loved playing Old North State Club. Old North State Club is a lot of fun. Even when you don't play well, it's still fun. And I would count it in the Triad. I mean, and you got to base it on how the close proximity of that course to Lexington barbecue.
Yeah.
And that puts it in the triad. I mean, if you were at Old North State, could you run up to Lexington barbecue and, get you some barbecue? And the answer is yeah. So it's in the triad. So
So how far would it be if you calculated? Have you calculated this? Would it be 45 minutes from Lexington barbecue?
it's probably about 45 minutes from Lexington barbecue. So it's good. It's good. Used to
Okay.
drive down there with Skeeter Francis and we'd stop by Lexington barbecue or somewhere, man. You go with Skeeter, that skinny dude could eat and he would take you. And I got fat, hanging out with him. But he stayed skinny. So yeah, we had a lot of good times. But yeah, looking at these, I mean, like I said, I always love Old North State. Um, Personally, I think Tanglewood can move up, Forest Oaks can move up. Deep Springs to me is the hidden gem of the triad. I mean, just a phenomenal golf course. We had a U.S. Kids event out there, and honestly, I've never been on the golf course, and in a way to appreciate it. And when I rode around it several times during a thunderstorm, getting all the tee markers, people off, then tee markers off, and so I got to see it. And I mean, that course. If it was in Greensboro or Winston, I mean, if it was in Raleigh, you'd be paying $200 a round for that. I mean, it is that good. Um, I think Maple Chase after the renovation. I don't think people have played it. It's really good, and I think Greensboro National. In my personal rankings, I'd move up those courses I just mentioned.
Mhm.
Tanglewood Championship courses. It's just hosted a PGA
You know what,
champion.
Jake? One thing I was really pleased with was of the 18 people I had who voted. Um, Almost all of them had played all of these golf courses. It wasn't like I had to like go through and average things. There are a few people who hadn't
Right.
played one or two, but basically
Yeah.
everybody on the list had played Old Town.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody, and so that was good. I was looking at a list that came out a couple weeks ago. For the state, and it's just a local thing with people who get together, pay some money, and play some golf courses. And they put out 100 course list without Roaring Gap, without Wade Hampton, without Diamond Creek. And I'm like, you can't do a top
Yeah,
a
yeah.
top
They
list
may have been
without.
bitter because they couldn't get on. That may have been
Well,
it. But
I'm
I
not
mean,
gonna
I
say
haven't
that,
played
but
Diamond Creek. I was offered to play Diamond Creek, but played Wade Hampton, and wow, that
yeah.
place is just
Well, the three
that's
courses I just mentioned were all in the
phenomenal.
top five in the state in Golf Digest.
Yeah,
And we're nationally ranked. So
yeah,
yeah, but what I'm saying is I was glad that we were able to get people who had played all the golf courses. And
yeah.
so
Oh yeah,
and so that was fun. And one thing you notice with these golf course rankings, I'm not saying with my list here, but with the golf magazines, is they have people who are very well connected, can play all these places, and are generally country club members. And I think there seems to be a bias for the old classic golf courses. Most of them have been renovated a few times. And then there's a bias for the new spectacular course that's built in Nevada or Nebraska or Oregon. It was amazing. I was looking at their list. There's courses I've never heard of that I guess have all been built within the last 10 years out in the
and
sand hills of Nebraska. You
yeah,
know,
with tens of millions of dollars. I mean, Sand Hills, Nebraska, though. I mean, it's got great property. I think one of the problems you run into, Sand Hills in Nebraska is there's a lot of great property that you can build on. Where a lot of your courses now, in a metro area, you got to get, what, 130 acres. You got to find 130 acres to build something on. So it'll be, more of a challenge to find that land.
well, what you're saying has a lot of validity to me because I'm thinking Bandon Dunes, Kohler, Wisconsin, Songstream in Florida. These are all built in the middle of nowhere, like you
Yeah,
said. I mean, it's hard to get to them. They all have to be destination golf course. I guess
yeah.
if you go back 100 years, you could say that about Pinehurst, but
Yeah.
so these
But
destinations.
with Pinehurst though, I wouldn't say Pinehurst was let's say Pinehurst Resort, I wouldn't say it's built on a great piece of land.
No.
I mean it is what it is. It's fairly flat and they put some movement in it. But how many places could you build Tot Hill Farm?
Yeah,
You
you're right. You're
there's
right.
very limited places where you could build Tot Hill Farm, or something of that nature.
Yeah.
because you can't move that much rock, you can't move that much land, to build it on. You can't shape your way with a bulldozer, into a course like that.
That was one of the big surprises. I was going to get to that later, but I might as well talk about it now. Tot Hill Farm was 14 on our public list. It didn't make the prize. That was a big surprise because it gets a lot of fanfare. I think it's a great golf course. It's spectacular. It's definitely different. I was surprised it didn't do better, but I guess what happens is it was in a state of pretty poor repair for years. And I think
Right.
some people may remember it for that. And that I didn't have a specific formula for, point system, grade this much for shot strategy, this much for, I didn't do that. I just had people name them. People do things different ways. A lot of times I think when people have a formula like Golf Digest says they do, I think people make it work out to how they want it to work out. They
Yeah.
maybe one course scores more points, but somebody says, but I like that other course better.
I would say Tot Hill Farms now has become more of a destination course and has priced itself up. I won't say out of our market, but it's not your typical middle class. Hey, let's go play Tot Hill this weekend, or we play it every single weekend. It may be, hey, we'll play it once a year type of thing.
Yeah.
And the renovation, how do I call? I mean, I don't know that I would call it a renovation as much as it is.
A
It's like
grooming almost.
well, it's like you go to get your hair cut, you get it trimmed up. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't. It's not like they shaved a mohawk in and colored it purple, type of thing. It's just a regular haircut. They trimmed up. They got the trees back. They got the conditioning back in the golf course that needed to be there. They got out of the trailer. They put it in the house, like it had always intended to be. Um,
Hmm.
they did the marketing like it needed to be, in the past few years. So that's where I think, maybe, it didn't ring a bell that much with people. And I would say, if you've got a lot of people that are players on the list, that's probably not a favorite golf course because you get a lot of rub of the green there, somewhat. It's very much a strategy golf course. So I think Mike Strand's golf courses are match play golf courses. They're not straight play golf courses.
Yeah, you can make X's on there on some of the holes,
Yeah.
and very easily. Well, what I think happened was a couple of years ago, under different ownership, they lost the greens on at least 9 holes. Okay.
Mhm.
Same thing happened. Forest Oaks had a problem a couple of years ago with their fairways, and I think it all
They're
depends.
greens.
People
They're
might.
greens. They had a problem with their greens,
Oh,
but
I
they're
thought they
great.
had. Okay. Okay. Well, so you had problems with the golf course. So people might have remembered that, or maybe that was the last time they played, was when those problems are going on. And, that same thing might happen with Maple Chase. Not that there were problems with it, but that it's a different golf course now, at least
Right, yeah, they
partially.
shut down for a year for the renovation,
Yeah.
and the club did not allow guests up
Mhm.
until I think May. So, a lot of those people that probably have not played it, but I hear nothing but accolades on the golf course and everything. Interestingly enough, I ran into somebody Friday night
Full
that had
disclosure, Jay Allred is a member there.
right. And but no, I ran into somebody Friday night that had played Forest Oaks. He's a CGA
Yeah.
champion. He played with another CGA champion, and he just raved about the golf course, the conditioning that Forest Oaks is in right now, and what a good golf course it is. And I do work there, but I mean, I'm not plugging it from that standpoint, but I see it every day of
Mhm.
the conditioning and hearing people come in. You know, a lot of Star Mount members are actually playing Forest Oaks while Star Mount.
Star Mount members have privileges at 22 courses. I'm told by Golf
Right,
Pro
and a lot of
Savio
them
Nazareth.
and a lot of them come to Forest Oaks,
Yeah.
and they are hugely complimentary of what all has been done there at Forest Oaks.
But once again, it goes back to the course being locked up, and under disrepair. I remember playing there for $15 8 years ago. I mean, it's not the same course it was
No,
today.
not at all.
But people's memories, maybe somebody hadn't played there for 6 years, But anyway, I don't know. And those were some surprises for me. What do you think about Bryant Park Champions being the top public access course, Jay? Go ahead.
I've never been a huge fan of the Bryan Park Champions golf course. I mean, I know a lot of people really like it. I like Tanglewood over that. I thought Grandover probably should have been up a little higher. It's a little bit of a feeling. I think on the public side, Greensboro National should have been up higher. I think that's a really phenomenal golf course. They do great things there. They have great food. I've always thought the concept behind Greensboro National, when Dr. Plumeritis owned it, he had a vision and he knew what he wanted. And the food is still a lot the same. The hot dogs, man, he brought in hot dogs from Wisconsin, and they're
Wow.
phenomenal. Once again, I divert to food. But yeah, I was there Deep Springs was 7th.
Yeah.
And Deep Springs is in is it Madison or Mayodan, one of the two. And so
I believe it's in Stoneville.
Stoneville, okay. Yeah, it's part of the big three: Stoneville, Madison, and Mayodan. So it's a little bit, farther out for people to go to, but man, I just highly recommend that golf course. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. And I think with Bryant Park Champions, a lot of people play there. It's very affordable, especially if you're a senior and you live in Greensboro. And it's got the lake. It's kind of, I would kind of compare, well, I wouldn't compare it to the Old North State Club. What I'm saying is it's got the same kind of elements that people like at the Old North State Club, the beauty of the lake and the layout. And you've got Cardinal at number 2, which is, I think, pretty good for the Cardinal. It always does well in national rankings. It was ranked, well, I said national, but state rankings by national publications.
Right.
It was ranked in the top 40 in the state by Golf Digest. And it's a great golf course, but it can beat people up if you can't play. If you're not hitting the ball good, you can get beat up at the Cardinal. So that it has to go up.
Golf course.
It is, and it's going to be the host of the state amateur in less than 2 weeks. It'll be interesting to see how people play there. Tanglewood is 3, and I think Tanglewood and Bryant Park both, maybe Tanglewood more than Bryant Park, are hurt by their facilities, which Tanglewood's going to have new facilities as far as clubhouse coming. And I think Tanglewood will rise in people's perceptions with their new clubhouse, because that old place.
Right, but they still have to improve their maintenance around there.
They do.
The driving range looks absolutely horrible. I do not understand why that is in such poor condition. I think I'm not sure of how. I think a lot of it has to do with the funding model. It's a county golf course. It's different. Bryan Park. Bryan Park has the Bryan Foundation money behind it,
and Pinnacle runs it.
Owned.
And Pinnacle runs it.
And Tanglewood, is probably what I suspect happens, which happens with a lot of municipal golf courses, is your county manager gets the budget and he goes, okay, we're going to increase everything by 3%. Well, I'll tell you what, over the last 20 years, you're not improving much if you're just going 3% a year, because I know, like, the chemicals have gone outrageous. People don't understand all the equipment. It's like 2 manufacturers that manufacture it all. So you're paying a premium for all that stuff. And I just went through the other day looking at a catalog. This golf course catalog where you get the trash cans and all that kind of stuff. And I was just amazed at some of the prices. Like, the jumbo bucket at a driving range is about $25.
Wow. Yeah.
You'd think that's like a $5 item, at max, or probably 3 at, Dollar Tree. But, if you say, oh, you can use this as a golf course, it's now $25. I was shocked by some of the prices on just items. Now I was trying to think of another one that was, the sand bottles. the sand bottles you put the sand
Yeah.
in, fill the divots, $25 each.
Wow. Yeah.
When you put two on every cart and you got 70 carts, that's 140, times $25, you're spending a few $1,000s.
Now, I guess that also explains why we're seeing so much economies of scale with people, having 10 golf courses or something like that. They can buy even little things like that. If you buy them in bulk, I'm sure you get a better deal.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully
I,
you would.
I think, yeah, I was going to say, I agree with you that, Pinnacle operates Bryant Park, that Winston-Salem or Forsyth County, I don't know, is it Forsyth County or
Forsyth
Winston-Salem
County for Tanglewood, yes.
that they could consider having a management company come in there and, ensure the
Yeah,
conditions are.
yeah, but I don't know that that changes their dollars. The other thing is you have the whole park. I think some of the golf revenue goes to, and they had the Festival of Lights. So between those two, they should be generating a pretty good amount of money. Um, but there is a lot of grass to grow. I mean, I don't know, maybe buy 100 goats and put them out there where the horse track is, and that eliminates that problem.
Does it
Expand.
does the does the BMX or mini bike racetrack raise any money? I don't know. I hear them when I'm out there on the course.
Yeah, they
Uh,
probably do. I mean, but I
yeah,
don't know. I don't understand. I've talked to some of them before, and they're just the funding model they have. I don't think we have any county commissioners that are golfers that would say, hey, we
yeah.
need to do something here. And for the longest time they had the Vantage Championship and RJ Reynolds donated a considerable amount of money there, and
Hmm.
that type of stuff is no longer around. So
Well, let me talk about the depth. First of all, the private courses in my overall rankings dominated, which is not a surprise. I mean, these are the best funded places usually, and Alamance and Forsyth were 5 and 6, which both great golf courses. Bermuda Run was the East course there, which is the longer course. The championship course was 8th. Let's see, Starmount was 12th. We'll see what happens with Starmount when their $6 million renovation is finished. That was the last I heard, was $6 million. And and then the Colonial was 15. Maple Chase, we'll see what happens with Maple Chase. They were in the rankings, but they're going to probably go up. But I guess what I wanted to get to more than that is just the depth that we have of public courses. And when I say public, for a lot of our courses that are quote public access, they have significant memberships, but they don't have enough where they can go without some additional outside play. Now
yeah,
we're talking.
that outside play is a key, um, for some courses. And if I was Old Town, I would have outside play. It may be $250, but I'd have it.
Oh,
I mean,
it would be more. It would be
there.
more.
I'm sure there'd be a foursome that would want to come out and pay $1,000 to play there, probably several a day, and you could do a lot with that. And the one of the interesting things I think is Greensboro Country Club Farm Course, and I don't take anything away from it, but I'm just saying, it is risen, in the rankings, and it is. I just hear great things about it. They love the Zoysia fairways and
Mhm.
uh, that sort of thing. And it beats out the inner city Greensboro Country Club course.
Well, now I haven't played Irving Park. I've driven around it, and it's a short old course. So I
Right.
guess it it's not long enough to hold tournaments with really good players, but
Mhm.
it's an old Donald Ross
It's
course,
a
right?
good golf course. It's
Yeah,
a really good golf course. So
and it made our rankings. Maybe should have been higher. I don't know, but it's a good golf course, really good golf course. Um, but anyway, there there's so many of these. You mentioned Old Town. If they wanted to have a few outside rounds, I guess a lot of the old classic clubs could do that. I know in Myrtle Beach, the Dunes Club went private and made a big deal out of it 20 years ago. But if you call them up and you say, I've got $325, they'll probably find you time in the afternoon. And I think private courses don't want to be on the record. They don't want people to know that you could do that, or they don't want to do that and have it be known, right?
Right. It'd be an unaccompanied guest that you have an unaccompanied guest fee, and
Yeah.
you know, it would. I don't know. I just think it's a thing you
But
could do and generate.
you
You
could,
know, like I said, if you want to charge $500, go right ahead, and
but then
somebody
again, they do that, Jay. They do in that, like if I'm a member at Roaring Gap, I can call the guy. I mean, they're limiting who can
ways
do
of
that.
doing it.
They're limiting it to club members basically, but they are taking outside play. I mean, they're not charging market for it. I don't think they're probably getting less, but I don't know.
Right. But normally you have to be accompanied by a member.
Okay, okay,
So that kind of throws, it into a loop. I know when I played Wade Hampton, I played with a member, and they didn't do any, all your play there is they had a PR person. And the PR person couldn't get people on. He had to have a member with them. So you played with the
right,
member, the PR person, and then two other people.
yeah. Well,
Two people.
yeah, and that's probably the way it is at some other places. Some of these other very very prestigious exclusive courses. I don't know, but yeah,
I'll tell you a funny thing about Wade Hampton, a couple of funny stories about Wade Hampton. After they first built it, it's in the mountains and, kind of in the valley at times. And they had, uh, the fairways were real soft. So over the winter, one year they put down a half inch of sand over the entire golf course. And then the next winter, they came back and put down another half inch of sand over the entire golf course in the fairways to firm it up. And I can't imagine what that expense was. The other thing was is when we got there, there was a sign on the men's locker room door. And it said the club has updated their logo. Please update your wardrobe and do not wear the old logo at the golf course any longer.
well, the people who are members there and live there maybe a couple weekends a year, I guess they can afford that. I haven't played there. I lived in Anderson, South Carolina for a while, and I had a connection there. Never got there, and haven't played. There's another course there called Mountaintop. Have you played there, Jay?
Haven't played Mountaintop, but I've heard it's great.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of
Heard it's
a lot of
incredible.
good places up there in the mountain. And we have different. I guess I counted about 4 mountain areas. We've got the Boone Avery County area. We've got Roaring Gap. We've got Asheville, and then we've got Cashers Highlands. Is there another one? There might be other ones up by Silva, maybe.
No, that's about it, I think, of the incredible ones. Of course, Mount Mitchell. I always loved that golf course. And it's sold, but I don't know how it
No, it got
hurricane.
devastated by the flood.
Yeah.
Yeah, there.
Has it
Last I
reopened
heard,
or anything, do you know?
I don't believe they are open. Last I heard, I talked to somebody who lives around there, and they were worried that it might not reopen.
Hmm.
So it was
That's
it
a
was
shame.
really hit. Was hit hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a funny story. Jim Floyd, whose I think father created it, and Jim owned it, and Jim, he's in his 70s. He was good friends with Roy Williams. I think they grew up together up there in the mountains. And but Jim, the course was only open 6 months, and then Jim went to Hawaii and lived the other 6 months. So he had it pretty good, if you ask me.
yeah. Unlike the people who are in Miami or Palm Beach and then come up there for the other 6 months, he went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Well, all good. But what we were talking about with these clubs that take outside play. I mean, go down the list. There's just all kinds of them. We were talking about the Cardinal. We're talking about Forest Oaks. We're talking about Deep Springs, Pinewood, Mill Creek. That's it for just our top 25. But if you go to our publics, there's several others. So you've got an opportunity to play some really good golf courses that at least have some accountability to a group of people to keep them in decent shape, I
Right.
guess. Which is good. And we do. Jay, I was amazed. I mean, we've got a lot of golf courses that are good. I would say that. Maybe I could say great. I don't know. There's
I
a lot
would
of
say
good places
great.
to play.
I think we really do have some phenomenal golf courses. And I mean, it's, and probably my eyes were open working at Forest Oaks. You know, I did the newspaper for a long time, but you know, I'm working in the golf shop a couple of days a week, and you know, people travel and come there, and they're just like, wow, this is just phenomenal. This is great, you know, and you know,
Hmm.
we have a lot of other great courses in the area, and so I think you know, I think we're in a good, we're personally in a good position.
In our pricing rates are phenomenal compared to people in Raleigh and Charlotte and other places around the country. So, I mean, if you're a senior, you can play a lot of places for $40 or under. If you're not a senior, you pay a little bit more. But you know, weekends prices are. See, I've mentioned this before, but it seems to me like there's been a bigger incremental increase between weekday and weekend than there used to be. You know, now
Right,
I've seen
and I think
places.
weekends normally now Friday to Sunday, which I understand. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a supply and demand thing. It's a lot of people like playing golf on Sunday. I mean, Fridays now, and so and that may be Friday may even be a bigger demand day than Sunday,
yeah, I can see that with people going to church on Sunday morning and having to go to work the next day, and a lot of people.
and just family stuff and
Yeah,
sporting
yeah,
events. And
yeah. I can see that. So anyway, uh, it was a lot of fun. You know, what do I do next, Jay? Do we do the top holes? Boy, that would be an impossible thing to do, I think.
yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of a hard, that gets into a hard one. You know, one thing you could look at is doing a consolidated rankings of where you take, you know, the ones you've done, and then let's say there's five or six other ranking type of things, you know,
yeah.
and you know, try to uh get them, you know, somewhat figured out uh and everything. Does Yelp do golf courses? I don't know.
A composite, I guess. Is that
Right, a
what you call
composite,
that? Yeah,
an
yeah,
average, yeah.
yeah. I don't know. That would be interesting. And um, you know, I think we've got Golf Magazine, Golf Digest, and there's other magazines that do it. Everybody's got their own list, and they're all a little bit different, but they're pretty much in the ballpark. You know,
You could look at Google rankings too.
there's Google rankings for golf courses.
Oh yeah, how many stars you got, that sort of thing.
Oh, okay, I know what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't have numbers by them, but yeah,
No, but you know,
yeah.
you know,
So,
and years ago, I was on the North Carolina Magazine golf panel, and you
mhm.
know, I suggested, you know, they just did like 1 through 100. And I said, you know, y'all need to do stars. I said because you know you know, you got a golf course at 50th. That's a really good golf course, but you can't market, hey, we're the 50th best golf course in the state of North Carolina,
Doesn't
and think
sound real
anybody's going to
prestigious,
go,
does it?
wow, I got to go play this, you know.
Now that's I was also a member of that group, and that's the list that I was talking about that didn't have Wade Hampton, Old Town, and not they had Old Town, didn't have Wade Hampton, Roaring Gap, and Diamond Creek. So yeah, I mean, well, anyway, it was a lot of fun doing it, and I've got a few that I got a few on this list that I need to play. Um, so we're going to keep going with that, and I hope people, if you haven't gotten a print copy, like I showed you the print copy earlier before, and it looks like this. If you haven't got a print copy, it's online. We're updating we update the site every day with different news stories, and hope you'll go to triadgolf.com. And if you want to advertise with the podcast or with triadgolf.com, or with Triad Golf Magazine, give me a call, 336-404-2212, or John at Triad Golf. Jay is teaching lessons right now. He's working in a pro shop. Your season's over with high school, with Reagan High School, but Reagan girls are next fall, right?
Right, yeah, we're going getting them geared up and everything, and a lot of them are playing, you know, different events. So that's great, and it's kind of funny. I give I'll go back through and count, but I give lessons to about kids at like five other schools we compete with, which is kind of funny. Of like a lot of these kids at the other schools know who I am and contact me for lessons, and I just gave a lesson to a girl at West Stokes yesterday, and that went really well, and so. But you know, I kind of look at it as I'm willing to help anybody, and it's up to my players to work harder than anybody else. So
Yeah, I don't know, Jay. If I were the coach at West Forsyth or something, I'd say don't take lessons from Jay Allred. I don't want him teaching you anything bad, you know. But I don't want him sabotaging my players.
oh,
But
I'd never do that. I'd never do that. I've actually in 18 years of coaching never called a penalty on a kid.
never called a
Like if
penalty
I've
on.
observed a penalty, that's up to the
Oh,
players to do it.
right.
I'm not gonna be that guy. And one year we came in second at states, and the team that beat us, there was a penalty, but I'm not gonna call it. I didn't. What was happened was the High School Athletic Association had told everybody that they put these signs out at the tees. We're playing the green tees, but they had stuck signs out, and they stuck the sign on one hole at the white tee, and so they had
Oh,
put a different tee box the previous day.
oh,
And I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy, and especially, it was the fault of the High School Athletic Association,
yeah.
not these kids. I mean, the kids just thought they were doing what they were supposed to do based on the sign, not realizing we're playing the green tees.
Now, if you're the coach out there and I'm playing, and can I go to you and say, look, this tree is in my way. Can I have line of sight relief, or this sign that says no trespassing is in my way? Um,
Well, I will help them with the rules.
okay,
I'm not going to call a penalty on you. I'll explain
right.
what the rule is, what your options are, and you choose which uh, relief you want to take on that.
Well, we're running a little long in this, but I got to share something with you. I'm watching a softball game of all things. I'm in a sports bar yesterday, and there's a softball game, and UCLA is playing Tennessee, and UCLA is down 2 runs. There's a runner on base. Girl hits the ball out of the park. She runs around the bases. She misses home plate, and she starts celebrating with her kids. And one of the kids kind of pushes her and says, "Hey, go back and touch home plate." So we got like a 20-minute. The umpire says it's okay. Okay, counts the run, counts them both. Tennessee's coach gets livid, and she's like in people's face. She's protesting the game. Would you really want to win a game when somebody hit a home run and they missed home plate, but they went back and touched it? One of their teammates touched them when they did that. I mean, is that really the way you want to win a game?
No, not me.
I
But
mean, I mean,
college baseball and softball, those are different animals.
oh, they are. They
I
are.
was watching the stuff from Florida's coach just lighting up some guy on the grounds crew at Coastal Carolina, and what was it? Mercer, I think, walked off the field because a player had hit a home run on them, and celebrated and taunted the players all around, and the NCAA has said, we're not allowing this, and the umpires didn't do anything, and that's the inconsistency in officiating, really gets me. I mean, if you're ever around my team and my players, win or lose, we're to have the same attitude. We're not showboating, that sort of thing. We just, that's just not tolerated.
I saw that clip too. I don't think it was Coastal. Mercer was involved. I can't.
Yeah, the coastal was a separate thing.
Yeah, I can't. I was like, well, what can you do? You can throw the player out after he touches home. I'm not going to invalidate his home run, but you're right. That was terrible sportsmanship. But anyway,
I'd probably
hopefully,
thrown him out and invalidated his home run. He didn't ever touch home base.
that's
If I
true.
was if I
Yeah,
was him.
yeah. Then
I mean,
that
I'll
umpire,
let you show some emotion, but that
yeah,
dude,
taunting. Yeah.
every player, around it.
I was glad to see that team, by the way, and I can't remember who it was again, but they lost the next. It was Samford, I believe.
It
It was
was
Samford
Sanford. That was it. Sanford versus
versus Mercer.
Mercer. I read
Yeah.
some of the comments, and it was rather funny. It was like, you know, this is baseball. You just blow the next guy's head off.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's all.
yeah. The next guy up. I wouldn't want to be the next guy up to bat back in the old days, but but anyway, hopefully we're both going to get on the golf course. We've had a lot of rain. We do have, like I said, the state amateur. We'll be covering the state amateur.
Yeah.
So anybody want to read about state amateur, it'll be here at Triad Golf. Jay, I want to thank you for coming here. You're irreplaceable for something like this. So
Well, thanks. Yeah,
thanks.
just have me on anytime. But I tell you what, if I was the next batter up, I'd be like Caddyshack. My arm.
Yeah, I never really understood why Ted Knight allowed a substitution, because I don't think you had to. They just said, you could allow them a substitution. I just said, no, I'm taking my 40,000 or whatever it was
Right.
at the time.
Funny story. Ted Knight
Yeah.
was a DJ at WBAG, I think, in Burlington, a long
Oh my
time.
gosh. If you had a tape or anything of him doing the news, that would be classic.
Oh,
You
that would
compare
be
Ted
hilarious.
Baxter to Ted Knight. By the way, if you're under 55, that was from a TV show called The Mary Tyler Moore Show in the 70s. Well, it was also Caddyshack was also before your time. But anyway, Jay, it's good to have you. Thanks for doing
All
this.
right. Thank you.
And everybody out there, we'll be back in a week or so with another podcast. We got lots of things going on, including the state am. We're going to take visits to Holly Tree Golf Links and to Old Bow up in the mountains in the next few weeks. So please stay posted. We're on your favorite platform. So until then, this is John Brasier. Thanks.